Gen X women are one of the most misunderstood generations alive today. People call them cold, independent, intimidating, even emotionally unavailable. But here's the strange part. The same women who are often described as hard to deal with are also the ones holding families together, caring for aging parents, raising children, and quietly carrying responsibilities that most people never even notice. So, which version is actually true? How can someone seem so strong, yet be so exhausted? So independent, yet secretly wish someone would simply ask, "Are you okay?" Here's the twist. Almost everything people criticize about Gen X women was once a survival skill. Their independence wasn't a personality trait, it was training. Their emotional distance wasn't cruelty, it was protection. And the toughness people sometimes resent today may be the very reason younger generations have opportunities they never had. Because long before conversations about mental health became mainstream, before flexible workplaces, before smartphones connected everyone, Generation X women were growing up in a completely different world. A world that quietly rewired how they trusted, how they loved, how they worked, and even how they asked for help. Today, we're uncovering 5 invisible psychological forces that shaped an entire generation. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the biggest misconception about Gen X women isn't that they're too strong. It's that most people have no idea what it cost them to become that way. Let's start at the beginning, because this story doesn't begin in adulthood. It begins with an empty house. Imagine you're 9 years old. The school bell rings. Kids run toward their parents, waiting outside. But no one is waiting for you. You walk home alone. You unlock the front door, with the key hanging around your neck. The house is completely silent. No one asks how your day was. No one reminds you to do your homework. No one checks whether you've eaten, so you make yourself a snack. You finish your homework. You solve whatever problems come up, and you wait. For millions of girls growing up in the 1970s and 1980s, this wasn't unusual. It was normal. These children became known as the latchkey generation. Their parents were often working long hours. Divorce rates were rising. Dual-income households became increasingly common. Many children spent hours every afternoon learning one lesson over and over again. Figure it out yourself. At first, that doesn't sound like a bad thing. In many ways, it wasn't. These girls became incredibly capable. They learned responsibility earlier than many children today. They became resourceful, independent, resilient. They learned how to make decisions without someone constantly guiding them. But childhood experiences don't simply disappear when we become adults. Our brains are constantly asking one question: what keeps me safe? And whatever answer childhood provides, our adult lives often repeat. For many Gen X women, the answer became incredibly simple. If I don't do it myself, it probably won't get done. Think about that for a moment. That's not just a habit, it's a worldview. It's a belief system built through thousands of small experiences. Every afternoon spent solving problems alone, every disappointment quietly handled without asking for help, every moment that reinforced one message: you are your own safety net. Psychologists often describe this pattern as hyper-independence. Now, independence itself isn't unhealthy. Being able to rely on yourself is an important strength. Hyper-independence is different. It's when relying on other people begins to feel uncomfortable, sometimes even unsafe. It's not that someone believes other people are incapable. It's that somewhere deep inside, their nervous system has learned not to expect help in the first place. That's why asking for support can feel strangely difficult, even when they're overwhelmed, even when they're exhausted, even when they desperately need someone else to step in. Instead, they hear themselves saying, "Don't worry, I've got it." You've probably met someone like this. Maybe she's the first person to volunteer when something goes wrong. The one who stays late to finish everyone else's work. The one who insists on carrying every grocery bag herself. the one who quietly fixes problems before anyone else even notices they exist. From the outside, it looks like confidence, sometimes even control. People assume she doesn't need anyone. But what if that's not confidence at all? What if it's conditioning? Because there's a hidden cost to becoming the person who always has everything under control. Eventually, people stop offering help. Friends assume you're fine because you never complain. Family members expect you to handle everything because you always have. Coworkers automatically bring you the hardest problems because they know you'll solve them. Little by little, competence becomes expectation, and expectation becomes isolation. There's something deeply ironic about this. The stronger someone appears, the less emotional support they often receive. Not because people don't care, but because strength creates the illusion that support isn't needed. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. Someone asks, "Do you need help?" Before you've even thought about the answer, you automatically say, "No, I'm good." Not because you're actually okay, but because saying yes feels unfamiliar, maybe even uncomfortable. Later that night, you're lying in bed wondering why no one ever helps you. The painful truth is, sometimes we become so good at surviving alone that we accidentally convince the world we prefer it that way. This is why so many people misunderstand Gen X women. They see independence. They don't see the little girl who learned, decades earlier, that depending on someone else wasn't always an option. What they're witnessing isn't emotional distance. It's emotional muscle memory. A survival strategy that worked so well in childhood, it never switched off. But here's the problem. Life doesn't get lighter when you're hyper-independent. It gets heavier. Because once people believe you can carry everything, they'll often hand you even more. And that's exactly what happened to many Gen X women as they entered the busiest stage of their lives. Just as they were building careers, raising children, and trying to hold their own lives together, another responsibility quietly arrived, one that no generation before them had experienced in quite the same way. They became the bridge between two generations, and that invisible role would leave millions of them carrying a burden that most people never even noticed. The sandwich generation and corporate survival armor. For many Gen X women, adulthood became a balancing act that never really stopped. They weren't just building their own lives. They were holding together everyone else's. They became the generation caught in the middle, the sandwich generation, a generation of people who found themselves caring for aging parents while still supporting children who were trying to survive an increasingly difficult world. And for many women, this responsibility landed especially heavily because society has historically expected women to become the emotional center of the family, the person everyone calls when there's a problem, the person who remembers birthdays, doctor appointments, important dates, family conflicts, the person who knows where everything is and somehow also knows how everyone feels. They become the person everyone depends on. But here's the part people rarely see. Being needed by everyone can slowly make you invisible. Imagine waking up in the morning already thinking about 10 different problems. Your mother needs help getting to a medical appointment. Your son or daughter is struggling with rent because housing prices have become impossible. Your workplace needs you to finish a project. Your partner needs attention. Your house needs cleaning. Your bills need managing. And somewhere in the middle of all that, there is supposed to be a person named you. But where exactly does that person fit? For many Gen X women, the answer became nowhere. They became experts at putting themselves last, not because they didn't value themselves, but because there was always someone else who needed them more. And this creates something psychologists call role overload. It happens when the demands placed on someone become greater than their emotional and physical capacity to handle them. The difficult part is that role overload doesn't always look like a breakdown. Sometimes it looks like competence. It looks like someone who always shows up, someone who never forgets, someone who somehow manages 100 responsibilities while everyone assumes they're fine, until one day they aren't. Maybe it's a small thing, a messy kitchen, a forgotten task, a question asked at the wrong moment, and suddenly they react more strongly than people expect. Others see the reaction. They don't see the years behind it. They don't see the thousands of times that person swallowed frustration, the moments they stayed quiet, the moments they kept going when they wanted to stop, the emotional exhaustion that built up slowly. This is why Gen X women are sometimes described as angry or difficult.